That's exactly what we're gonna do. Frost and I were working together right up through the semi-final. I handled the flavor, he did the designing. But I wanted to face Tangaroa in the final on my own. No help, just me and my skills. So I helped Frost with his entry, but mine I did alone. If it didn't taste good for the final, that's on me. What can I say? I lack training. And yet, I heard that your creations prior to the final were scored highly for their flavor. So what went wrong? Was there some kind of cooking accident on that day? No, nothing like that. It was... I told you, I had a taste disorder. My sense of taste failed me. It's as simple as that. But Mr. Frost's entry was compliment on its flavor. Your sense of taste hasn't failed you then. Did something happen overnight?
I don't think he's gonna spill any more beans, Mr. Edgeworth.
Then perhaps I should ask him about something else. Did something change between the semi-final and the final, Mr. Gusto? Not really. The only difference between the semi-final and the final was that Frost wasn't helping me. I don't know. I don't think so. I can think of one significant difference between the semi-final and the final, Mr. Gusto. Your son. This is him in the photograph, correct? You told me he was here with you up through the semi-final. He was. What of it? What indeed? He was here with you until the semi-final. Until he suddenly wasn't for the final. And just as subtly, your work went from being lauded for its flavor to being lambasted for it. I don't think that's a coincidence, do you? He wasn't just spending quality time with his father. He was playing a much more pivotal role than that. I just wanted him to see me hard at work, to show him I was trying my best for us. Who knows? Maybe it was him being here that helped me do so well in those early rounds.
He talks a good game, but nothing about this guy screams super dad to me.
Indeed. Thankfully, we would only have to give such an idea credence if his story were true. After all, how much could the encouragement of one small boy affect the taste of a grown man's work? Mr. Gusto prided himself on the flavor of his creations, but then he lost his sense of taste. He must have had a tough time maintaining his high standards after such a devastating loss. Unless... I'm sure your son was here to cheer you on, but that wasn't all what he was here to do, was it? You're a very suspicious man, Mr. Prosecutor, so why not try answering yourself for a change? What was an elementary school kid doing here other than to support his father? To taste your creations? Your son knew the taste of your work pretty well, I imagine, Mr. Gusto. He was my biggest fan. Of course he knew it. In which case, he would have been a good judge of whether something tasted on brand, so to speak, no? What are you implying? You've already told us that you were suffering from a taste disorder. I'll admit it. You're good. I never told anybody of this, but you figured it all out anyway. It's true. 18 years ago, I developed ageusia. No one knew about your condition. Indeed, I doubt Mr. Frost would have wanted to continue collaborating with you had he found out. After all, it was your job to make sure his creations tasted good. Therefore, your son wasn't just here to support you. He was helping you by taste testing your work. Dang, now it all makes sense. Frost's stuff tasted good because it really was finished the day before when the kid was still here. You have a vivid imagination, Mr. Prosecutor. But do you seriously think I trust a kid to tell me how to adjust the taste of my masterpieces? I have some pride, you know, even back then. Did you now? My designs may not have been much to write home about back then, but I always knew my work tasted better than anybody else's. You think I'd risk everything by putting my reputation in the hands of a child? This is just more speculation. That's all it is. In that case, I ask to speak with your son this instant. Let's see how much of your story he can corroborate. Sadly for you, my son is no longer my concern. What? As soon as I got my sense of taste back, I went straight to Zhangfa to start my training, and cut off all ties with the kid for good.
What?
You abandoned your own child? And that ain't the half of it. No one knows where he is even now. The cops have looked all over him for him, but no dice. So, still think you can prove your asinine theory? I'd like to see you try. You think I care about anything besides confectionery? Think again. I got my sense of taste back. What need do I have for a son?
Silence in the courtroom. While Mr. Gusto's words and actions may demonstrate a certain lack of humanity on his part, the goddess of justice cannot judge him for that. Therefore, Mr. Edgeworth, I believe it is time for you to admit defeat.
Yeah, give it up. 18 years is a long time for anything to surface now. Proof or otherwise.
Mr. Edgeworth, we have to do something. If we don't, the truth might be lost forever.
Where are you, Detective Gumshoe? Can't imagine whose blood it could possibly be, but I'll get it tested right away, sir. Please do, Detective. That's the last piece of the puzzle, I'm sure of it. Once we know whose blood it is. Hey, Miles, sorry to cut in on your mind palace time, but I was pondering something myself. Our friend Gusto didn't come here just to check up on the body, did he? You mean because he tried to open the case? Exactamundo. Think we have anything that might explain why he tried to do that? We might, if Detective Gumshoe can make it back in time with a certain piece of evidence.
That's quite enough idle chatter, defense. Now, if you...
Mr. Edgeworth, sir! Sorry to keep you waiting. Speak of the devil. I take it you have the test results, Detective? Yes, sir. The lab just got back to me.
Detective, please. Court is in session. Now then, am I right to assume that you are bringing us the evidence Mr. Edgeworth was just speaking of?
What? Hey, no fair! Why didn't anybody tell me about any of this? It is indeed the evidence in question, Your Honor. It needed testing, so I asked him to carry it out.
What the? Why is everybody always helping you?
Maybe because everybody likes you and not... because everybody likes him and not you.
I'm supposed to be the one in charge here.
Mr. Winner, I'm sorry I didn't involve you, but this is important. Can we at least hear what the detective has to say? Well, all right. So, Detective Gumshoe, what did the test have to tell us? You're not gonna believe this, but the owner of the blood we found in the liquid at the bottom of the Gemini case is Carmelo Gusto, the victim of the poison gas attack. What are you talking about? Thank you, Detective. You've been very helpful. Well, it looks like my suspicions were correct.
What do you mean, Mr. Edgeworth? Yes, what do you mean? Explain yourself. What is the significance of this blood to this case?
It's only the very thing the perpetrator of the IS-7 incident has been trying to hide all these years. The fact that your blood was found inside the Gemini case, Mr. Gusto, is as good as us finding your blood lying right next to Mr. Frost's body.
Overruled. Why would there be traces of your blood there? Of all places, Mr. Gusto.
If you won't answer Her Honor, Mr. Gusto, then I will. There wasn't just blood in the liquid from the Gemini case. There were traces of salt and sugar, too.
There were?
And if you remember, one particular part of Mr. Frost's work was all allegedly very salty indeed. Oh yeah! You're talking about what Delicia told us back then, right? What was it again?
Did they ever? I never tried ices so scrumptious in all my life.
Really?
Man, I wish I could have had a bite. Well, scrumptious except for the salty bit, of course. That was unbearable.
The salty bit?
It's in the other photo you got there. This bit, the harpy bit.
Gemini's liar. Yes, the lyre. And only the lyre tasted as if it had been flavored with salt. There were no traces of salt anywhere else in Mr. Frost's century.
Very interesting. Then perhaps you can tell us, Mr. Edgeworth. Where did the salt on the lyre come from?
Yeah, the salt lamp.
This is the lamp from the IS-7 incident?
Indeed, and I believe that the salt that gave the lyre its flavor came from just such a lamp. Mr. Von Karma had established that both salt lamps were in Mr. Tangaroa's room at the time of the crime. One of them was used to kill Mr. Frost, and it was stained with his blood, but no corresponding pool of blood was found in Mr. Tangaroa's room. Right, because the culprit had chucked a piece of chocolate with that on it into the little stream. Furthermore, aside from the lyre, no trace of salt were found anywhere else in Mr. Frost's room either. Hey, come to think of it, the lamps we found in Delicia's room were both broken. The lamps appear to be broken. Bowls are smashed. Both of them. Maybe they fell and broke on the floor. We never did figure out how the one that wasn't used to kill Frost got busted, but are we thinking maybe it had Gusto's blood on it at some point? Anyone whose blood was found on one of the lamps would have been a person of interest to the police. So the killer needed to hide the blood somehow, and in a way that wouldn't arouse suspicion.
And you are seriously suggesting that the lyre was used to do just that?
I am. I suspect that the bloody salt was somehow applied to the lyre so that it could be hidden inside the case. Because unlike the fountain water, the sculptures would have needed more time and care to test properly. And so he waited and waited for his chance to dispose of the lyre undetected.
Then the reason he's here today is...
18 years ago, Mr. Frost's body and the evidence pointing to his killer were taken away together. This, of course, was not part of the perpetrator's plan, and thus a new dilemma arose. How could he be sure that neither Mr. Frost's body nor the evidence wouldn't be discovered someday? So back he comes 18 years later, and sneaking in bright and early to try and cover his tracks. Well, Mr. Gusto, are you finally ready to admit it? That you are the one responsible for the IS-7 incident?
Here. Mr. Gusto, it's all because of you that Samson...
Gusto. So I finally got caught, huh? All these years later? Nobody came close back then. Not even the big shot prosecutor or the attorney. That's some impressive work, Mr. Prosecutor. I have to hand it to you. You admit then that you murdered Artie Frost? Yeah, sure I do. I did it. I killed him. But he only had himself to blame. What do you mean by that? He agreed to help me. We were supposed to help each other so that one of us could win. And whoever won was supposed to let the other use the cookbook. But on the day of the final, the rat finally showed his true colors. Seriously, Frost? We had a deal! Sorry, I'm not helping you in the final. Our little agreement is over, Gusto. But I helped you! I spent all day yesterday making the ice for your pieces! Did you? And you can prove that, I suppose? What do you... Wait! You were planning to betray me right from the start, weren't you? After Frost double-crossed me, I had to make my piece for the final by myself. And like you said, my son wasn't there, so I didn't have any help with the flavor either. So much for the pride you claim to have in your ability to make delicious desserts. Go ahead and judge. You have no idea what it was like for someone like me to lose my sense of taste. I gave up everything to become the best. Everything! I take pride in that. Something someone like you could never understand. You're right. I don't understand. Do you take pride in the fact that you resorted to murder? Or that you abandoned your son? Why would I want to understand someone who could do such things? A man can't afford to rely on other people. I learned that the hard way 18 years ago. My son never showed up on the day of the final. And in hindsight, I wouldn't be surprised if Frost was the reason why. Remember that point for later.
Why would you think that? What exactly happened to your son?
How am I supposed to know? I told you, he's none of my concern anymore. And according to you guys, nobody knows what he is now either.
And you don't care? You're horrible!
So with his disappearance, so too went your chances of winning, correct? Yeah, I had to find another way of getting my hands on that book. That's when inspiration struck. I decided to skip afternoon tea and snuck into Tangaroa's room. It should have been so easy. All I had to do was photograph the formulas I needed and get out of there. But then Frost showed up. I thought I might find you here. Stealing recipes from the famous cookbook, Frost! What's this? A cure for taste disorders? Oh no! That's just too tragic! A confectioner who can't taste anything? What will people say? If you tell anybody, I'll... Ah! You'll what? You can't even hit me, you miserable worm! Why you? Frost shoved me hard when I went to punch him, knocked me clean off my feet. I crashed into one of the lamps. Must have been when my blood got on it.
So Mr. Frost wasn't the first to get hurt.
When it was all over, I realized I had to get rid of that blood somehow, so I scraped off all the bloody bits. I dissolved those soul shavings in some flavored ice mixture and brushed it all over the hob. And that's how you made the evidence linking you to the murder vanish. Frost was going to blackmail me. He would have made me give him money to keep quiet about my condition. So you decided you had to kill him? Yeah, I guess I did. Why would I let him live? Would you want someone holding something like that over your head? Besides, he's the one who drew first blood. Makes for a solid case of self-defense, don't you think? So that was the impetus behind it all. Anyway, I initially took the lamp to Frost's room. Went straight there once I figured out how I was going to hide the bloody part. Inspired by all the ice sculpting tools lying about the place, I guess. You're not as dumb as you pretend to be. Yeah, figured I could use them to chop it off and grind it all up. Once that was done, painting the stuff all over the hop was easy.
But why Samson? Why did you have to frame him?
Hold it! I never meant for the cops to pin it on him. That was your fault. You and the rest of them. Why do you think I went to the trouble of placing the lamps and cloths back in Scone's room? There's only one reason to plant the murder weapon in the room of another contestant, and that's to cast suspicion on that person.
What? You tried to frame me, Gusty Pants?
Yeah.
But why? Why poor old me?
I respected Tangaroa. He was the best, a true champion. I would never have wanted him to take the fall. But you're a fraud. Your work wasn't even real. You had no respect for our craft at all. You deserve to be punished for what you did.
Oh, Gusty, how could you?
And had you refrained from eating Tangaroa's work, Frost's body wouldn't have been found. My plan was to wait until Tangaroa was judging your room. That's when I'd sneak the corpse into Frost's room and freeze it. But thanks to you, Bound here found it before I had a chance to retrieve it.
I don't understand. Why did you need to freeze his body at all?
Ah, why indeed?
Mr. Edgeworth, surely you must know. Why did Mr. Gusto need to freeze Mr. Frost's body?
To throw off the time of death. Mr. Gusto needed to freeze Mr. Frost's body in order to obscure the time of death. If they determined that the murder occurred during afternoon tea, he would have been an obvious suspect. Bingo! Freezing Frost's body wasn't simple. Preparing everything took time. So I decided to put his body in the chest in Tangaroa's room while I got everything ready in Frost's. At the time, it seemed like the perfect hiding place. Never counted on some gluttonous pharmacist showing up and making the whole ship collapse.
I still don't get it, though. Why disguise the body as an ice sculpture at all?
The sooner it was found, the smaller the effect on freezing it would have had on masking the time of death. Therefore, he needed to disguise it, at least until it fully frozen.
How awful! Using Mr. Frost's own work to help you cover up the truth behind his murder.
Ironically, Tangaroa would have been just fine if the body hadn't been found before I got it out of his room. If only things had gone to plan, he wouldn't even have been arrested, let alone convicted.
You mean it was my fault? Everything that happened to Samson? It was all because I found the body?
Don't let him get inside your head, Judes. None of this is your fault. If it wasn't Samson, it would have been Delicia instead. She would have been the one they arrested. Either way, there's only one person to blame here, and that's Gusto. It didn't help that the initial detective was so bad at his job either. He never even told the prosecutor that the body had vanished. So then, Mr. Von Karma had unwittingly placed Mr. Tangaroa under arrest in the absence of a body? I mean, I guess it would explain why he was so keen to wrap things up. Still, you'd think he'd notice something as big as that if he'd taken a look at a few reports, right? Not if someone had been deliberately distorting the facts of the case, though. Either way, it seems that Mr. Von Karma didn't know about the body until after the arrest had been made. But admitting that would have spoiled his perfect record. So he kept it to himself and proceeded to prosecute Mr. Tangaroa regardless.
Can this really be true? You don't feel bad at all? Somebody spent 18 years in prison because of you.
Yeah, sticks and stones, Gally, sticks and stones. What a jerk! I ought to arrest you right now, pal.
I'm afraid I can't allow you to do that, Detective.
So you noticed, huh? Glad somebody did. The judge is right. You can't lay a finger on me.
What? Why? You just confessed to murder.
No idea, huh? Then I guess I better lay it out for you. Testimony! Why you can't arrest me? I killed Frost 18 years ago. The statute of limitations for murder in this country is 15 years. You do the math. You can't arrest me. You think I'd have confessed otherwise?
That's right. The statute of limitations is only 15 years. Is this really the end of the line, Mr. Edgeworth?
Once the statute has expired, he can't be charged, so...
But... How unfortunate, Mr. Edgeworth. I'm afraid that both Mr. Gusto's confession and your deductions will have to be struck from the record. And then Mr. Tangaroa's conviction will remain in place.
But we've finally proven that the police never had Mr. Frost's body in their possession. Even if we can't arrest Mr. Gusto, surely Mr. Tangaroa has grounds for a retrial on that basis.
Does he? I wouldn't be so sure. I'm afraid that the goddess's judgments are somewhat harder to overturn than you might imagine.
So the committee means for the verdict from 18 years ago to stand no matter what? Bad luck, Mr. Prosecutor. There must be something we can do. Something to bring Mr. Gusto down. Yeah, there is. I killed Frost 18 years ago. The passage of time doesn't diminish what you did, Mr. Gusto. It sure diminishes one thing, though. Your ability to arrest me. Oh, we can arrest you. We can arrest you real good. I could have you in cuffs before you even blink, pal. Right, Mr. Edgeworth? This issue isn't as open and shut as you're making it out to be, Detective. You can't touch me. It's too late for that. The statute of limitations for murder in this country is 15 years. Depending on your actions over the last 18 years, the statute may not have expired yet. This ought to be good. All right, I got nothing to hide. If there's something you want to ask it. Very well. Tell us where you've been and what you've been doing since the incident. Sure. Not long after the contest, I was able to cure my taste disorder thanks to the formula from that book. And not so long after that, I went to Zhangfa to really buckle down and hone my craft. That explains a lot. We tried to contact you after the fact, but I guess you were long gone by then, huh? Could be. I left, let's see, around a year after the murder. It was before Tangaroa's last day in court. Going to Zhangfa was the best thing I ever did. Flavor, design, I'm the full package now. Objection! And all on the backs of those whose lives you destroyed. What's an omelet without a few eggs, hmm? Nothing, Mr. Prosecutor, nothing.
You're evil!
Sticks and stones, Gary! You can't arrest me, and that's all that matters! I need more to work with. There has to be something I can get out of it. Maybe I can push him further on the statements he just made. Is there anything I should follow up on? I'd like you to tell us more about your trading in Shangfa, if you wouldn't mind. Fine! I later went to Shangfa to train, and I finally became the best in the world. The best in the world, huh? I doubt that. The statute of limitations for murder is subject to the following condition. The statute is suspended should the suspect flee to a foreign country, which means that the time you spend abroad doesn't count toward the total time under the statute. No way! So it's like someone hit pause while he was in Shangfa? It appears that there may be time left on the clock yet, but that will depend on how long you stayed in Shangfa, Mr. Gusto. It was 3 years exactly. 3 years? Hold on. Nobody said anything until I've done the math. The murder happened 18 years back. The statute is 15 years. Add the 3 overseas. 15 plus 3 makes exactly 18, which means no way. Mr. Edgeworth, you did it. The statute hasn't expired after all. Bingo! 18 years exactly! Glad you worked it out for yourselves. He's just been stringing us along this whole time. Why is he laughing? We're good, aren't we? We can arrest him now. I hate to break it to you, little sis, but IS-7 went down at the end of December. It's April now, which means, strictly speaking, it's been 18 years and 4 months since Frost's murder. If Gusto's stay in Shangfa really lasted 3 years on the nose, it's not enough. We're 4 months short. Not enough? But, what did I tell you? You can't touch me. I hate to admit it, but he read the board well when he made his confession. How unfortunate, Mr. Edgeworth. If only the statute had been suspended for another year. Those who would overturn the goddess's judgment must be willing to pay the price should they fail. And you, Mr. Edgeworth, have failed. There must be something I can do. I knew it. Well, if the law can't bring Mr. Gusto to justice, then... Judes, what are you thinking?
Objection!
There's no need to go adding to your rap sheet just yet. We're not done here. Far from it. Because there's still a way we can nail him. There is? Alright, Mauserino. Pep talk. I need you to think back over everything we know about the case. Gusto's overlooked one critical thing that you yourself were led to believe wrongly about. Which is, he wasn't there for Samson's last trial, remember? Best I can tell, he doesn't seem to know what the final verdict that came down that day is. Which means there's still one way left to us. Crack open your statutes for dummies there and take another look. 17 years ago, they really did a number on Samson and framed him like a pretty picture. But if we make good use of that verdict now, we can make Gusto pay in full for what he's done. Fender, are you? Those who would overturn the goddess's judgment must be willing to pay the price should they fail. Samson's my client, Miles, and I can't bring myself to use the source of his pain as a weapon in this fight. So whether we play our last card or not, it's gonna have to be up to you. Bringing Mr. Gusto to justice can only happen if I use the outcome of that hard-fought trial. So, should I raise an objection and play that card or not? Yes. My father and Mr. Von Karma. One sought to reveal the truth, the other to hide it. I know which path I chose to follow. The one that seeks to reveal the truth. This court has reached its final verdict. The record will state that Mr. Gusto has been found not guilty on all counts.
Objection!
No, Your Honor. Mr. Carmelo Gusto is absolutely guilty. And I refuse to let him walk away. His crimes are too unspeakable to go unpunished.
Do you mean to suggest that you have grounds upon which to call for his arrest?
I do. Now to show Judge Gabel something that proves the statute of limitations hasn't yet expired. The IS-7 incident case file.
Very well. Is there a particular case of the IS-7 case file you would like us to refer to?
The suspect data. I'd like to direct your attention to the page concerning the suspect. As you can see, Samson Tangaroa was convicted as an accomplice. And it would have took around 1 year from his indictment for the verdict to be reached.
Yes, that does seem to be the case.
The book you gave us details certain conditions pertaining to the statute of limitations for murder. One of them, as I mentioned, is that the statute is suspended if the suspect flees the country. And another states that the statute is suspended from the time of any accomplice's indictment to the end of their trial.
What? Tangaroa was convicted as an accomplice?
Yup. Guess you were in Zhang file when the verdict came down. Samson was convicted as an accomplice, not as the main perpetrator. Which is clearly news to you, and not good news either, am I right?
But how can that be? Tangaroa wasn't an accomplice to anyone. He was innocent, and you know it.
Oh, we know it. It's what we've been trying to prove all along. And in a pleasing twist of fate, his wrongful conviction will be the very thing that sets him free. If you spent 3 years in Shangfa, and your accomplice Samson Tangaroa was on trial for 1 year, it means you can still be charged with Mr. Frost's murder up to 19 years after the fact. In other words, the statute of limitations hasn't expired at all.
The goddess's judgment is infallible, but that of her servants, it appears, is not. It seems the prosecutor in charge of this case may have erred. Unbelievably, we may have no choice but to instigate a full inquiry.
No! How could this? You weren't supposed to be able to!
18 years. That's a long time to let somebody else suffer for your crimes. It's time to pay the piper, Gusto, and not a moment too soon.
But I'm finally the greatest. My brilliance has been recognized. I gave up everything for this. Everything, even my son.
More's the pity. But you can't run from the law forever, because the bills come due at last. Mr. Gusto's all set for his trip downtown, sir.
Oh, good.
Which means it's your turn next, right?
I suppose so.
Judes.
I'm so sorry, everybody. I've caused you all so much trouble. But thank you. Thank you so much for bringing Mr. Gusto to justice at last.
I'm afraid there's no escaping the consequences of your actions, Miss Mao. But those actions were born of the legal mistakes that were made all those years ago. We all know that. So allow me to apologize in return, on behalf of the prosecution.
Oh no, I have no one to blame but myself for it all, starting with those sculptures.
Hey, Judes, you think maybe you might want me to represent you? I'm not some nervous newbie anymore, and there's no way I'm letting you take the rap for everything.
Oh, I'd be honored. Thank you, Mr. Fender.
Sorry, ma'am, but you've got to come with me now.
Of course.
Judge Gavel, why did you lie to us?
Lie? What are you talking about?
You imply that there was no case for a retrial. But as we've proven, that wasn't true. Surely anyone truly committed to seeing justice done would have called one as soon as the body was found.
I am under no obligation to answer such questions.
And you clearly have no intention of doing so either.
Truly, you are proven to be quite a threat to the Committee for Prosecutorial Excellence. As such, you give me little choice but to report back on your continued transgressions. No doubt you will be called to appear before the committee in due course. Now, I must be on my way.
What the heck? And after you caught the real killer and everything, isn't that what prosecutors are supposed to do? Regardless of how it may all play out, I will never regret what we accomplished here today.
Mr. Edgeworth!
Hey! Mr. Edgeworth! Yes? Why did you stick your nose in this case anyway? You weren't even on the job! My job is to bring the truth to light, Mr. Winner. Not only as a prosecutor, but as a person. I don't get it. I wouldn't expect you to understand, not as long as you believe that closing a case makes you a winner.
That's going way over my head. I'm going home. What was that all about?
Eustace still has a lot to learn is all.
Mousy wowsy!
Yes?
I just wanted to say old Greggy Pegleg would have been proud of you today. Oh, look at me tearing up. That and thanks for helping poor Sammy Poople.
Of course. Hey, Edgy, looks like you cleared everything up, huh? So, what happened exactly? I was kind of busy sketching. Wait, where did Judy and Verity go?
Wow, you really weren't paying attention, were you?
Though I am loath to admit it, Larry's sketches did come through for us on more than one occasion. Not that I'm about to tell him that. Quit it with the glaring, will ya? Whatever I did, I'm sorry. Calm down, Larry. I wasn't glaring at you. You totally were. You're just like your pop. He was a terrible liar, too. He was? Listen, I'm gonna head out. You need to fill Samson in on what went down today. You wanna come with? Yes, of course.
Great! Then I'm coming too!
April 2nd, 4:56 p.m., Detention Center, Visitor's Room.
So what's Mr. Tangaroa like? I can't wait to finally meet him.
Oh, he's a real sweetheart. You'll love him. Even while locked up, he can't help but make all sorts of cookies and cakes for everyone. It's why 3 p.m. cake extravaganza is a thing for prisoners and guards alike.
Really? That sounds awesome. You think there'll be any left for us to try?
Didn't we find a few slices of chocolate cake in the prison the other day? Could they have been some of Mr. Tangaroa's baked goods?
Gummy! What are you doing here?
I heard you all were coming to see Mr. Tangaroa, so I volunteered to escort him. Hello, new friends. I'm Samson Tangaroa. Prosecutor Miles Edgeworth, at your service.
And I'm Mr. Edgeworth's trusty sidekick, Kay Faraday.
It's very nice to meet you both. Miles here is Gregory's son. Is that so? Your father was very kind to me and fought so hard for my case. But in the end, I betrayed him. I made a false confession and... Don't worry, Mr. Tangaroa. Mr. Fender has explained everything to me. Sure did. And now we're here to tell you the truth about what happened 18 years ago. The truth? Judy did all that? For me? Crazy kid racked her brain for 18 years until she finally figured out how to set you free. What can I say? Turns out she really would do anything for you. Oh, Judy. I never did anything to deserve such devotion. Come now, Mr. Tangaroa. I think we all know that's not true. The bond between the two of you has held strong for all these years, after all. You think so? I guess I better show him. Which piece of evidence is proof that the bond Mr. Tangaroa and Mr. Bound shared? Simple. The chocolates.
Take that!
Those chocolates. Judy made them, didn't she? Yes, she did.
They're super delicious and sweet.
Miss Bound continued making them just as you taught her. even after that fateful day, so that there would always be some waiting for you when you finally came home. Judy. I bet they're beyond super sweet then, aren't they? Very much so, I'm afraid. I only wish we could hand them to you. Don't worry, sir. I'll make sure he gets them later. Which would be a clear breach of prison policy. Not that I have the authority now to stop him anyway. Thank you very much. You know, Detective, something about you reminds me of Detective Bat. Really, pal? Because I look up to him a lot. He's my role model. You don't say. Seems fate likes to bring people of all sorts together, huh? You hang in there, Samson. Just a little longer. I should be able to get you out soon. I'm sorry it's taken so long. Nobody should have to wait 18 years to get justice. Don't be silly, Eddie. I'm the one who should be saying sorry. Or rather... thank you. Truly. Samson. Well, I guess it's my turn to wait for Judy to come home now. I'd better make sure there's something delicious on the table for her when she finally walks through that door. Don't let me down, Eddie. Leave it to me, big guy. The IS-7 incident. It's been 18 long years, but the case we'd inherited from my father is finally coming to a close. Hey, Miles. Thanks for today. And sorry for forcing you to make the final call like that. Not at all. I simply made the call that felt right to me.
Huh? What are you guys talking about?
You know how Samson was wrongfully convicted? We had to pretend that he wasn't an ordinary Gusto, but to use his false conviction against him, even to save him. As his lawyer, I just couldn't bring myself to do it.
Yeah, I can see that.
But now that Gusto's behind bars, I can finally start to get that wrongful conviction overturned. Yes, and I am sure you will.
Wait a minute. Does this mean that even if you were only doing what's right, if the false conviction had been overturned before today, Mr. Gusto would have gotten away scot-free?
Yup. It's what we folks in the trade like to call a legal contradiction. The law is far from perfect.
Because of things like legal contradictions, right?
Yeah, but you never know. Things might change. The law is always evolving, just like us humans. Your Uncle Eddie and Miles Areno included, am I right? The potential for growth and change in people and the law, huh? So, Miles, are you going to keep fighting crime as a prosecutor or help people as an attorney? Something tells me you've got a big decision ahead of you, one only you can answer. I know. Well, let's just say I won't complain if you show up at the office one day. And on that note, it's time for me to skedaddle. I owe you big time, and I always repay my debts. But for now, thanks again for today. I mean it.
Did he seem kind of in a hurry to get out of here to you?
He did. And honestly speaking, I'm the one who owes him a debt of gratitude. After all, he gave me the chance to reckon with my father's final case. When I was a boy, all I ever dreamed of was becoming an attorney like my father. But then during my time with Mr. Von Karma, I learned the way of the prosecutor instead. Eventually, with the help of some good friends, I found my own voice and a new way to live. But now my career as a prosecutor is at risk of being taken away from me. It may be time to take another long, hard look at how I want to live my life, whether I like it or not. April 2nd, Edgeworth & Co. Law Offices. Hey, Gregory. Sorry for reporting in so late. It may have taken 18 years, but we're finally in a position to prove Samson's innocence. All thanks to your boy, Miles. I couldn't have done it without him. You should have seen him. The way he fought for the truth gave me chills. It was like I was watching you. Look, I know I'm not half the attorney you were, but those guiding principles you try to instill in me, I like to think I'm embodying them now, as I carry on your legacy. Here's hoping. Your boy will be joining me in that soon. Am I going to fight crime as a prosecutor or help people as an attorney? What is the right answer? Which path should I choose? And that completes episode 3, Turnabout Legacy. That's it. We're done. At a crossroads, indeed. Next time we begin episode 4, A Turnabout Forsaken. If you enjoyed this, please be sure to hit the like button. It means a lot to me. Please do not forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and click the bell. I will see you then. I'm working as much as I can to get this done. And if you're wondering, this video will either be 1 or 2 parts. I'll probably have it be 2 parts due to length. Like I said, I'm trying to get as much as I can done because I'm still raising money to get a new laptop. If you want to help, links in the description below. This is MegamanNG signing off. Peace out. Product provided by CAPCOM.